Hi, we are members of the CATS program, and we are speaking with Mrs. Aimee Wade, who is the Executive Director of the County of Summit ADM Board.
You are watching A Lifetime of Influence, presented by the Alliance for Healthy Youth and the members of CATS, concerned about teen success.
All right. Hi, how are you doing today, Mrs. Wade?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. How is everyone?
We're good.
Some.
So, Mrs. Wade, where do you work and why did you choose your profession? I work for the County of Summit Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board, which short is the ADM Board. I've been there for over 12 years, and I'm the executive director there. And I came to work for the ADM board as I worked in several different settings across the county: juvenile court, domestic relations court, community corrections, common pleas court. And I saw an underlying thread in all of these settings of what was impacting families that came into came to the attention of the courts. And so I really wanted to figure out how I could impact, the underlying factors and not be on that end of helping people after they found themselves in those circumstances. So that's kind of what led me into work and looking at, prevention and treatment and recovery and how we can get individuals and families past that.
Wonderful. So, when did you choose your profession?
Um, the profession chose me. Yeah, originally, I would say coming up through high school, middle school, I was really focused on criminal justice. I actually went to college. My undergraduate at Ohio State University was criminology and sociology, with a minor in African American studies. And I went to law school for a year after that. I applied for law school, went to law school here in Akron, and quickly became disenfranchised with the direction I thought I wanted to go in criminal law. Because again, it was at the wrong end of the spectrum of where I wanted to intervene in people's lives. So then I had to make a decision. It's like, so where do I want to intervene and how can I get to that place? um, and social work, came to my attention. And I really liked the fact that there was a variety of things that you could do with a master's of social work, which I targeted administration, but you can also be clinical. So it just gave me a variety of opportunities going that particular pathway.
Okay. So, I know you mentioned college,
Mhm.
but what like degree or like education level is needed for your profession?
I currently have a master's in social work, but there are 50 such organizations like mine across the state that represent all 88 counties. And there's a variety of different backgrounds of the executive directors of boards such as mine. The majority have a clinical license, like social work or clinical counseling, or PhD, a psychologist, something of that nature. But it really depends on the trajectory that you take. I think coming into this position, you really have to have an administrative background. You must be policy minded. There's a lot of policy setting. I'm looking at the county as a whole. So we have approximately 540,000 residents in Summit County. So when we're making funding decisions and setting policy, how does that affect individual communities, but also how does that affect the county as a whole? So it's a little different perspective than, just clinical and work with the individual. And I think I talked about social work. I think that's a perspective that that particular field brings as well, because you look at the entire person, the community, and the person in the community.
Wonderful.
So, what type of talents or gifts help you in your profession?
I would say what I've tended to lean on is integrity, by all means, transparency, and authenticity. I think um, I think younger than a lot of folks that have sat in positions of this nature, especially at a county level, has been interesting. Being a woman sitting in this position, also being a minority in this position is something that you have to consider, and you have to bring your entire self, into these spaces when you're having these conversations, and making decisions for the community. But also recognizing that I'm representing the entire county of Summit and every resident here, and I think that's an expectation. And something that people appreciate is just the honesty and transparency and authenticity that you can bring into a room. So that's something I lean into.
Thank you.
So, in what ways do you work hard in your profession?
In what always? I would say always. I mean, it's a difficult job, and I think you work hard not only professionally, but you work hard personally to maintain a balance, because it's hard work because you're literally dealing with people's lives and their livelihood and their ability to live, healthy lives in our community and successful lives, and meet their personal goals, of what's a good life for them, not my standard of what's a good life, so recognizing that and helping people get theirs, that's what gets me up every day. And it allows me to work hard because I'm born and raised here in Akron, Ohio. So I have a personal commitment to this community and the work that we do as well.
Awesome. So, do you ever work more hours than your job requires? And in what kinds of situations do you find yourself doing that?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think when you come to the level, an executive level or C-suite level, as they call it, that's kind of an expectation. You're not just putting in 40 hours, but individually, you have to find that balance, to make sure you're taking care of yourself because you only can give what you have to give, right? And when you're doing such important work, you want to make sure that you're giving your all to whatever you touch because it is a reflection of you, your professionalism, and how you approach your job. So, absolutely work more than 40 hours a week. Sometimes I work less because you have to find that balance. And talking to other executives across the community, I think something we've come to the conclusion of is, people try to find that 50-50 balance. And I think once you get to a certain point in your career, like it's really individualized. I don't know that there's such thing as 50-50, but you got to find what works best for you, for your health, for your family, and know how much you can give to one side or the other. And sometimes that fluctuates. So,
Awesome. So, what makes you work so hard? Like, what is your drive behind you doing your job?
um, literally, because I'm in the community I've grown up in, community I love. When I'm serving the citizens of Summit County, it's, my family, my relatives, people I've grown up with, my neighbors as well. So it's really personal. And, even for those folks that I don't know, I make a point to get into the community and hear those stories. I don't want to get so far removed, by being the executive of this organization that I don't understand how my decisions and the policies that we make impact people who are accessing our services or living their daily lives in this community. So, that's one of the ways that I stay connected to make sure the decisions that I'm making um, helps everyone.
Of course. Okay, so as you reflect on your life now, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, the advice that I would give to my younger self and that I would give to all of you is that you deserve everything that you receive. I think as I walked, through my journey to get here, sometimes you question yourself and say, do I belong here? Should I be here? Do I deserve this? Um, and you need to tell yourself that you do and lean into it. And you have a responsibility with everything that you receive, um, and how you handle that, how you share with others every experience that you get. Lean into it, be present. I think that's a huge thing that I learned later that I wish I would have thought about earlier because there are a lot of experiences that I had that I kind of had them. I know I did it, but was I present in that moment and actually experienced it? Because I know there's pieces that I don't remember because I was just kind of doing. So as you walk through your journey, make sure as you're in moments like these that you're here, you're present, you're listening, not thinking about other things. So sometimes you just kind of have to stop yourself when you're in moments in different situations and make sure you lean into that moment. And that's personally and professionally, because there's a lot of priorities, a lot of different things pulling at you. And you really have to be conscious of when to just stop and be present where you are and with, whom you're with. So,
So what would we need to do to have you keep a job like yours?
Um, I think I hit on some of it. I talked about the authenticity, the transparency. Definitely, I would say definitely take care of yourself, because it's high stress, high pressure. Like I said, day in and day out, you're dealing with um, things that could impact people's lives. We track data and information that literally tells us if lives are lost based on things that we seek to impact. So self-care is critical. You have to find that time for yourself to kind of step away and do check-ins. One of the big things I push is that mental health, behavioral health is health. That it is healthcare, just like your physical healthcare. So it's okay to get help, even if you're feeling okay. It's okay to just go get a checkup, check in, make sure you're balanced, take care of yourself, take a time out. Um, and just do a mental and physical check in on yourself. Because, like I said, you only can give what you have to offer. And unfortunately, if what you have going on inside is toxic, then that's going to come out, and bleed onto others. So if you're seeking to do good, you really need to make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yes.
So far, you've given us such great advice, but do you have any other advice that will help us in our personal and professional lives?
Yes, I would say never to give up and use every experience and opportunity as a learning experience. So that's something that I've leaned into as well. Even if things don't go your way or you consider that you failed at something or, you felt like you were unsuccessful, you just kind of have to flip that on its head because there is something to be taken away from every experience, even if the outcome isn't what you may have wanted it to be because you can use that in the future to not have the same outcome. There's just a lesson to be learned. So, that's kind of how I approach things even now. If I'm in a meeting and maybe the meeting doesn't go exactly how I think it should go, or maybe I don't have the same opinion as someone in the meeting, I always flip it to kind of stand in their shoes to try to understand, well, why did they have that perspective? And how can I address that in the future? Or maybe, if I'm giving a presentation, how do I put that in the presentation? Because that's a question or concern from someone's perspective. So just try to flip the negative, take something positive out of it, and use it to your benefit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today, and we hope to see you some other time, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Same to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching A Lifetime of Influence. A Lifetime of Influence is funded by the County of Summit ADM Board.